Did McCarthy make a secret deal with Biden on Ukraine? CBS News. Matt Gaetz accused House Speaker Kevin McCarthy of cutting a secret side deal on Ukraine to push THR. A temporary measure to keep the government running. Below are your comments. Isn't wheeling and dealing what politics is all about? It's not about passing legislation that is most beneficial to us common folks. McCarthy made a deal to save his own neck and keep power. But the people of this country don't support the billions of dollars when the citizens of our country can't afford to have housing, medical care. When our armed forces have to be on food STSMPS when they are protecting our country, when the country's debt continues to climb and we are heading for ban. We've become a country that thrives on wars. Anything that helps our people seems to always be too expensive. Wars, or anything associated with war, have an unlimited budget. Start peace talks now. Take care of problems at home. The rest of them should really read up on. Hey you guys, Putin doesn't want the US to aid Ukraine. Trump doesn't want the US to aid Ukraine. MAGA doesn't want the US to aid Ukraine. This is coming down from their chain of command. Of course the American people want the US to help Ukraine for the sake of democracy and freedom. Next news. U.S. Senators to seek Xi meeting, discuss Micron on China trip. Bloomberg. A bipartisan group of U.S. senators hopes to meet President Xi Jinping in China next week, as a flu RRY of diplomacy bolsters expectations of a leaders' meeting between the two superpowers. Most read from Bloomberg why a U.S. recession is still likely and coming soon. Airbnb is fundamentally broken, its CEO says. He plans to fix it. Severe crash is coming for U.S. office properties, survey says. JPMorgan's Diamond Pred. ICTS 3.5-day workweek for next generation thanks to AI. The secret plot again. Below are your comments. Here is where our own contradictions are going to overwhelm us, and make a very public display of Saint how damaged our thinking has become. We want the Chinese to keep buying from Micron. And in order to do this, we have to acknowledge these particular items are not a national security ISS. These senators will be trying to beg Xi to buy more microchips. They know China is now semi-independent on advanced chip production and are afraid of losing further on market shares. Joe declared an unofficial war on China. There is no reason for Xi to meet U.S. senators. Joe will impose more sanctions soon. Why bother talking to this rogue regime? Can Huawei do business in the States? Electric cars? No? Next news. Hope fades as Indian rover fails to wake before sun sets again. Futurism. Sunsetting lander. The sun is officially setting on the landing spot of India's Chandrayaan-3 mission. Yet again, diminishing hopes of the country's lander ever waking up again. As of September 30, the receding sun has started plunging the area into darkness. And without the warming rays of the sun, temperatures are set to plunge something. Below are your comments. I wish India would get their act together. There is so much talent there, but their culture is drowning in poverty, corruption and backwardness. Much of their population still lives in dwellings without indoor plumbing. So sad. Rechargeable batteries don't survive during extreme cold. I had too bad experience. Be good at building toilets before putting money on space junkets. Indian Voice comes online, and you hear many other conversations in Mumbai boiler room. Hello, this is Paul. Thank you for calling tech support. Please wait on the line as call volume is high, and have your credit card ready. It's easier for them to say they don't work than it is for them to give CGI images that could further expose their lies. It is not possible to go to the moon. Before you hit the down thumb, research the Mars rover in Devon Island, Canada. You are being played. Next news. U.S. State Department, Congress must take action on Ukraine funding. Kyiv Independent. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a stopgap measure on Sept. 30 to avert a government shutdown. The bill funds the government for 45 days, but does not include provisions for further Ukraine aid. Below are your comments. Let the Europeans do the spending and the dying. Needs to be said much more to get the message across, otherwise we're much closer to looking at World War III and we won't be. We the people must take action against Congress and stop this treason. Everything for the front. Russia allots a third of 2024 spending to defense. Yahoo Finance. This Yahoo article says it all. Mission accomplished. Putin the Great just committed nearly everything. Over 1/3 of all Russia's assets. Russia's entire infrastructure will collapse by 2025. Next news. EU has reached consensus on Ukraine's membership. Only issue is time. Ukraine's foreign minister. Ukrainska Pravda. Following an informal meeting of EU foreign ministers in Kyiv, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said there is a consensus within the European Union on Ukraine's future membership. Source. Kuleba at the final press conference, as reported by European Pravda's correspondent details. Kuleba said there was a consensus at the ministers' negotiating table. The only issue is time. Below are your comments. The only consensus is getting out of this mess. The only thing holding this up is how to do it without losing face and hence losing the next electio. And due to this major blunder, Italy, Bulgaria, Hungary and now Slovakia all voted in anti-war candidates. The ones pushing for more involvement are all. I have decided to buy a mansion in CA. Only issue is the money. Donkey is shown tastiest red carrot. The only issue it chasing it for its master but never reaches. I wish that poor beleaguered nation persecuted by Russia all the luck in the world. Ukraine will be safe only if it is in NATO and the EU. However, will there be a NATO if Trump gets in? He will certainly help Russia in its genocide of Ukrainians. That won't fly. Next news. Russia lacks sufficient air defense systems, so is redeploying them from Far East, Ukraine's defense. Intelligence. Ukrainska Pravda. Ukraine's defense intelligence has said that events in Russia indicate that it lacks sufficient air defense systems of its own and is transferring them from Russia's Far East. Source. Andriy Yusov, representative of Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, on the 24/7 National Joint Newscast. Quote, events in Moscow itself, or in Bryansk or Kursk oblasts, show that the enemy does not have enough IR defense systems to protect its territory. Below are your comments. Lacks. The brave Ukraine fighter have destroyed half of Putin's baby bleep army. Dictator Putin is begging North Korea for help. He even begged Cuba for help. What did he think would happen attacking a free democratic country? Pretty stupid. If the Russian people knew what was happening, they woe. Russia army is doing rotation. If someone would open up a second front with Russia, they can get whatever land they want. This leaves them terribly vulnerable to China, and now they are a fourth world country, maybe even Mongolia and Armenia. Japan can wait a little bit longer and retake the Kuril Islands that the Russians stole during World War II. Next news. Ukraine says U.S. support not shattered, despite McCarthy's moves on funding. The Hill. Ukraine's top diplomat on Monday described Congress's move to pull Ukraine funding from a short-term deal to avert a government shutdown as an incident that does not signal a shattering of Washington's support for Kyiv. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said that Ukrainian officials are talking to Republicans and Democrats to shore up continued support. Below are your comments. Yes should suit up all supporters in all branches of government and send them and their donors to GHT. No need for term limits, then a win-win for the constitutional republic truly. Since when does Ukraine get a vote? U.S. support not shattered, just cut back. There are 31 NATO members with only a few that have helped. It is time for Joe to knock on some doors pretty darn hard. Dmytro and Volodymyr decided that they need a couple of $2 billion by the end of the year. Just take all of our money and military, we don't need it anyways. Next news. Ukraine receives first Leopard tanks from Poland after repairs. Ukrainska Pravda. Poland has handed over the first batch of repaired Leopard tanks to Ukraine. The tanks were repaired at the Bumar-Lebedi plant. Source: Polish Armaments Group. Polska Grupa Zbrojeniowa, PGZ. On Twitter, reported by European Pravda details. PGZ emphasized that repair work continues on the next batch of machines. Below are your comments. No one in Eastern Europe wants to be associated with Russia. Thank you, Poland, of doing what our government won't. Too many people here worried about themselves instead of the world, but a better world is good for all of us. Again, thank you. More T-90s up in flames. Russia will lose this war. Russia will be a pariah for years due to Putin's ignorance. I hope his own people do a Mussolini on him and hang him dead, upside down in Red Square. Where was the damage on the Leopards? A reporter asked. In just a few spots, was the answer. Did they do work to upgrade it to all electric? Next news. Podolyak. Elon Musk's irony encourages Russian propaganda. Kyiv Independent. Elon Musk shared an insulting doctored meme of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Twitter on October 2, insinuating that Zelensky asks for too much aid for Ukraine. Below are your comments. There is concern that some of the aid for Ukraine is being diverted by corrupt individuals. That extra aid would be needed to compensate for the diversion. Stopping all aid because of the corruption is illogical. The aid is necessary. It is the corruption that needs to be monitored and mitigate. Elon could do with a long rest in an institution. We can easily increase supply to Ukraine. What is necessary to do for us is reduce habits of eating out, drinking or going to nightclubs. Small tax increase will help us to get money available for that. It may save lives of Ukrainians. Russia doesn't have to ask for aid because it's its own Russian soldiers for free. That's what Elon Musk is trying to say. Russian soldiers are a dime a dozen. Who wouldn't take offer? Putin has long relied on his army of useful idiots to spread his propaganda and act as a fifth column. And across the world. Next news. Congress didn't include funds for Ukraine in its spending bill. How will that affect the war? Associated Press. Ukraine had little reason to celebrate when U.S. lawmakers approved a spending bill Saturday that averted a widely expected government shutdown. The measure didn't include the $6 billion in military assistance that Ukraine said it urgently needed. Now the Pentagon, White House and European allies are urging Congress to quickly reconsider. Below are your comments. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the U.S. has provided $43.9 billion in weapons. But the article failed to mention that the total amount of aid sent now amounted to over $100 billion, and most in cash with no accountability. How about cutting off all funds until the corruption is dealt with? It doesn't mean anything short term. Long term, it means the writing is on the wall. The clock is ticking. Russia now has more incentive to continue its war in Ukraine, since it sees the United States back-in Geoff support. Also encourages China and North Korea to accelerate their provocations, with the U.S. is faltering on IT's commitment. Next news. Representative Matt Gaetz vows he'll move to oust fellow Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, but not yet. NY Daily News. Matt Gaetz Monday vowed he would push to oust House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, but not just yet. The right-wing firebrand of Florida accused McCarthy of cutting a secret deal with Democrats to pause aid for embattled Ukraine and demanded answers from GOP leadership. "I'll be listening," Gaetz said. Stay tuned. Gaetz said he would introduce a so-called motion to vacate sometime later this. Below are your comments. Hillary Clinton referred to the basket of deplorables. The occupants of that basket now include Guy, TZ, MTG, Boebert, Gosar and Santos. Deplorable is too nice a word for them. Yahoo prohibits the words that are the best descriptors for them. When is this child molester going to be held accountable for his actions? Why is Gaetz still in Congress? Chicken. If his target were teen female, he would have chased them right away. Next news. The story of one iPhone factory powering Apple's pivot to India. Time. Apple is betting big on India as it pivots iPhone manufacturing from China. Here's how that's playing out for workers in South India. Below are your comments. One of the world's biggest employer, Foxconn, is taking advantage of the dire needs of their worker in India for profit. They cannot do that anymore to their China production area and should not do that to their plant in India. This is democratic India. Factories in China have been operating for more than 30 years, but managers much better condition. That's why investors are very reluctant to move all its operations out of China, not until things are better in Vietnam, India, Bangladesh. Maybe at least in 10 years. Only the beginning. Shall Winnie the Pooh she bleat the golden goose. Bye bye Sheena. Next news. Ukraine becomes largest buyer of German weapons. Ukrainska Pravda. In the first 9 months of 2023, Germany approved arms exports worth more than in the whole of last year. Source: European Pravda. Spiegel details. According to the country's Ministry of Economy, in the first 3 quarters of this year, the Federal government approved the export of military equipment to Ukraine worth 3. Below are your comments. Please wait a moment. Its U.S. taxpayers are largest buyers. It's our money. Hold it right there. If he has money to buy them from Germany, he does not need out taxer money. We Americans do. How long are we Americans going to put up with giving our money away? Ukraine is not buying anything. They are broke and have no economy. The U.S. taxpayers are having our money stolen to pay for this stupid war. Using American money. Next news. Germany sends new military aid for Ukraine containing equipment for Leopard tanks. Ukrainska Pravda. On Monday, 2 October, the German government updated the list of military assistance sent to Ukraine. Source: the updated list was published on the website of the German government, reports European Pravda Data. ILS. According to the report, the new military aid package includes equipment for Leopard tanks, 14 tracked all-terrain vehicles Bandvan 206, BV 206, 1 bridge-laying tank Beaver, 2 mine-clearing tanks Wisent 1, 99 SATCOM terminals, 21 border protection vehicles, 239 crypto phones, 11 truck. Below are your comments. Germany need to deport all its Russian and supporters to Ukraine to clear landmines for the Ukraine offensive. Why are tanks being sent when they can't be used, especially with winter soon approaching? You know what the frontline Russian got today? Nada. Nothing. Is this equipment functional, not like the Leopard 2 tanks it just sent? The old German scam. Once you bought in a German machine, then you will need the endless supply of parts if you want to keep it moving. Next news. Politico. White House more worried about corruption in Ukraine than it publicly admits. Kyiv Independent. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration prepared a confidential strategy document that sees corruption in Ukraine as the real threat, allegedly warning that Western support may depend on Kyiv's anti-graft efforts, Politico reported on October. Below are your comments. Thank you to Politico for presenting another side to this conflict. Of course, the Democrats are extremely corrupt. They are getting right up there with Stalin and Hitler. Little Ukraine is giving big Russia a heck of a fight, so corruption does not seem to be evident on the battlefield. Corruption is part of breathing among the many nasty players on this planet, Earth. GOP Corruption Inc. Trump being one vivid example. In some countries the corruption aftershocks continue to this day. This is nothing specific to. Next news. Biden's reference to a deal with McCarthy on Ukraine funding creates confusion. CNN. President Joe Biden appeared to suggest over the weekend that Democrats had reached a new deal with embattled House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Ukraine aid, a major omission from a funding bill that nagged to avert a government shutdown. Below are your comments. If America gives up on Ukraine now, surely it will fall to Russia, and then Russians will soon go AF. Tear other weak states such as Alaska. Biden needs to mind inflation in America. We don't owe nothing to Ukraine. Zelensky is bleeping all. From Western democracy leaders to non-win war. Ukraine's border is more important than our border. One of Biden's faults is bleeping off his mouth inappropriately, trying to look like the tough guy. Next news. A dating coach reviewed a 26-year-old's Tinder profile and said his NATO not attached to an outcome approach is smart. Insider. A dating app expert said she refers to Aaron's strategy NATO, are not attached to an outcome, and sigh. This mentality can benefit singles greatly. Below are your comments. He's 6'2", doesn't want children, has muscles, has pretty blue eyes, is vaccinated, and is in graduate school? Score. That's hot. I don't think that he realizes, though, that the unsightly gap between his two front teeth is an instant turn off and a woman repellent. If he fixed that, he'd be perfy. Chad does not need a dating coach. Hilarious. Doesn't even need a bio, really. No one wants to date these modern females. There are too much of headaches. Instead, go overseas to date foreign-born decent females. Next news. Gaetz promises motion to vacate McCarthy, this week, urges Speaker to reveal secret side deal on Ukraine. Fox News. Matt Gaetz said he planned to introduce a motion to vacate House Speaker Kevin McCarthy this week, calling on McCarthy his secret side deal on Ukraine. Below are your comments. Matt Gaetz' secret side deal? How transparent, how democratic, how representative of the country's citizens' wishes. Angling to be the future leader of the free world. What a winner. Not only did he try to play games with 4+ million Americans' paychecks and everyone's government, he is trying to drown his boss because his boss didn't agree to hold us all hostage. I don't know what the procedure is to remove a representative. However, I believe we are I knew it. McCarthy was a member of the deep state. First, my family and are Republicans. We don't watch Fox anymore. We are Americans for democracy, not dictatorship. Shame on you, Fox. Expel Gaetz, i.e. he's a tur. Next news. Pentagon has $5.2 billion United States dollars left to provide military support for Ukraine, WSJ. Ukrainska Pravda. The Pentagon still has over $5 billion United States dollars in its coffers to supply Ukraine with weapons and other Eurity assistance. Source: The Wall Street Journal details that $5.2 billion United States dollars is roughly equivalent to the cost of the weapons the Biden administration sent to Ukraine over the past 6 months. Below are your comments. Imagine if they had used that $5.2 billion to help U.S. veterans. Please wait a moment. Or any of the $134+ billion they already sent over to Ukraine. Closing parenthesis. Russia and China have zero national debt and the U.S. has $32 trillion in debt. The U.S. government is now having to pay over 5% to sell the U.S. Treasury bonds. So servicing the debt is 5% of $32 trillion is $1.6 trillion. The U.S. governor brings us $6 trillion in revenues and spends $8 trillion, hence the deficit is. Vietnam War. How did that turn out? Bad except for the military contractors. Iran-Contra. How did that turn out? Bad except for the military contractors. Next news. Brazil's government starts expelling non-indigenous people from 2 native territories in the Amazon. Associated Press. Brazil's government on Monday began removing thousands of non-indigenous people from 2 native territories in a move that will affect thousands who live in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. The South American nation's intelligence agency ABIN said in a statement that the goal is to return the Apatarewa and Trincheira Bacaja lands in Para state to the original peoples. It did not say whether or not the expulsion of non-indigenous people has been entirely peaceful. Below are your comments. I think this a very positive story. Great job, sir. The indigenous will take care of what the government cannot. That should be done in the USA as well. Big time. Brazil's government starts expelling non-indigenous people from 2 native territories in the Amazon. They will be at the U.S. southern border soon. If it saves the lungs of the earth, I'm for it. Next news. AP. Pentagon running out of money for Ukraine. Kyiv Independent. Pentagon Controller Michael McCord warned the U.S. Congress that diminishing funds for Ukraine could cause delays in critical weapons and supply shipment. NTS, the Associated Press reported on October. Below are your comments. Borrow the money from China. That is where ours comes from. This is exactly what Russia and China are waiting for. Very soon China will invade Taiwan. But that war will be totally different as Taiwan is not limited to only defense like poor Ukraine. Taiwan will be allowed by the West to fully launch attacks in China. This is going to be very exciting. Just turn the dollar printing presses up to warp speed and the Yukis will be happy. Too bad. Ask the EU for more money. Not from us. Fight your own war. Stay out of our country. You don't like what I said? Well, kiss my censor. Thanks AP for giving Putin your support and encouragement to keep hanging in there. Next news. NATO testing underwater drones off the coast of Europe to deter Russia. Fox News. NATO is developing new underwater drone technology that can use artificial intelligence to better detect and deter attacks on critical underwater infrastructure. Below are your comments. NATO testing underwater drones off the coast of Europe to deter Russia. Sounds like a Freudian slip. If we're going to prevent Russia from bleep up its pipelines, we're going to need above-surface drones too. Their pipelines run everywhere. This will be an ideal testing ground for Orca. If the military creates acronyms for projects, then Orca sounds very interesting. I can imagine Orca could be an anti-submarine drone that attacks its prey in a similar manner as an orca. I can imagine the ability to dive under a submarine, latch. Deter Russia? You mean attack Russia, which is what NATO has been doing. Next news. Explainer: why did the UN vote to send an international force to Haiti? Reuters. What is the MSS? The Multinational Security Support (MSS) is an international security force backed but not operated by the United Nations. The UN is seeking voluntary contributions of personnel, equipment and funds. Below are your comments. We already fund much of the UN, now another 100 mil to cover the costs? Where is the Clinton Save Haiti Fund? Have they spent anything down there? Another 100 million taxpayer dollars down the drain. Our whole government is senile. The UN is a useless organization full of freeloaders. US will pay for it, not Ukraine. Next news. Biden administration concerned over corruption in Ukraine but still supports aid to combat Russia, Emo states. Fox News. The Biden administration is prioritizing anti-corruption reforms in Ukraine while emphasizing continued aid and military support amid ongoing conflict with Russia. Below are your comments. As long as the 10% for the BG is coming back. Corruption? Like in Afghanistan where we funded them for how long? Brandon hangs out with a green national socialist leading a Banderite country. And he wants to give them gobs of money which is kicked back to finance the National Socialist US. Biden is a fool to be wasting U.S. taxpayers' money on the corrupt Zelensky regime. Take care of America first. Corruption? Hey Joe, it takes one to know one. Next news. UN Security Council approves sending multinational forces to Haiti. The Hill. The United Nations on Monday approved a plan to send a coalition of multinational forces to Haiti in a support mission designed to address soaring gang violence and crime in the country. The UN Security Council unanimously approved a resolution authorizing a one-year deployment of troops, which H would be sent from Kenya to Haiti. Below are your comments. This is a big mistake. This happens every few years. Countries need to work out their own problems. How many times can we do this same exercise and expect a different outcome? Money pit, just keep throwing money at it and it'll get better. Well, at least a few people will get very rich. When I saw the picture I thought it was Chicago. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.